Back with our MP Todd McClay, who's taken on some new portfolios in the way of a really good promotion. Again, congratulations. It is exciting because I think, and can I say on behalf of those watching, you deserve it because you've worked hard up till now in your role as a Member of Parliament. That's obviously going to stay the same in terms of that. Passions for the city. Before we talked about your passions in terms of the drug thing, for example, the synthetic cannabis. A little bit of an update of where that's going because of your associate health portfolio now fitting more into that, and maybe an opportunity to put more legs on your passion in that sense.
Yeah, so as Associate Minister of Health, two of my responsibilities are drug policy and alcohol policy, more from a health perspective or point of view. Look, we have ongoing challenges in New Zealand throughout all communities when it comes to the way we treat alcohol and drugs, and particularly with younger people. Very sadly, not so long ago here in Rotorua, another young person lost their life in a fire, and whether there was alcohol involved with that young person or not, there were a large group of youths there because of alcohol, and so it is a challenge we face in New Zealand. A particular concern at the moment, though, is the psychoactive substances, the synthetic marijuanas in the party pills. And over a period of time, the availability and use of these drugs has grown significantly. 10 years ago, there were a few party pills and nobody knew very much about it. Well, now we know that in parts of the world and in China, there are vast laboratories producing these things and new versions of them as quickly as they can, and they've never been tested to see whether they harm, what effect they will have upon people. And so there's been a big outpouring of concern throughout New Zealand. Here in my electorate of Rotorua, I've had a lot of families get in touch, individuals come in who have had problems with these drugs. Interesting, lots of mothers with teenage kids and daughters who are so very frightened about the harm that they could cause.
Does it worry you, for example, Todd, that that ban was brought in recently and there were comments through the media about the fact that despite the ban, other people will find other ways of going around it. So there's almost the whole money thing, and people, regardless of responsibility, will find a way around it. Does that concern you?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the problems with trying to ban something. So we put in place as an interim measure a ban on a number of products and have the ability to add to them. So the K2s and the chronic and all those other things, they're banned, they're gone. But the problem we have with that is the government has to spend a lot of time and resource, a lot of money to have the ban, and the manufacturers need to just change one ingredient, and the legal description is different. It's not banned anymore. So we've decided to turn this on its head, and there's a piece of legislation before Parliament that I'm now responsible for that says it's the other way around. From a certain point in time, all of these products can't be sold unless they're authorised to be sold. You will need a licence. So what that means is, it doesn't matter what's in it, if you haven't got a licence, you can't sell it. Change the name, change the colour, doesn't matter. If it's not authorised, you're not allowed to sell it. And what we're doing is putting in place a regime where somebody that wants to sell a product, imported to sell it, must prove that the level of harm is so low and insignificant that it doesn't pose a challenge or a harm to New Zealanders. And so we're moving to a very new approach. Ultimately, we're turning it on its head. It says, if you want to sell these products in New Zealand, you spend the money to prove it's not going to harm people. If not, then you can't sell them here.
You talked about some input from local parents, for example. Have they come up with some ideas as well? And are you getting, apart from them expressing concern, are you getting input from them as well?
Yeah, I have been, although we're at the latter stages now of the legislation. The bill has come back from Select Committee. I've, a new minister, been able to have a bit of input. I've made sure that there needs to be a bit of a police component to this. You can't have a law that says you can't do this, but if you do, there is no consequence. So there are some pretty stiff penalties for those that import and sell and provide these drugs without the authorisation. They won't be available to anybody under the age of 18. It will be an offence to sell or give it to them. They won't be in our dairies, they won't be near our schools, they won't be in petrol stations or pubs. They'll only be in authorised places that are not hidden away, but they're not everywhere where young people will see them. Mainly people locally have told me, just get rid of them. Well, the challenge we have is we can try and ban things, but the law is always smarter than the lawmaker. The people making money out of this will find a way around it. Well, we're saying to them, if you want to sell these to New Zealanders, Zealanders, you prove it won't harm them. If you don't, you can't sell them, and if you do, there'll be a very significant penalty for that.
And to quote the cliche, that is really putting the fence at the top of the cliff, isn't it?
It's exactly the same approach as we have with pharmaceutical medicine. So if you go to your doctor and the doctor prescribes a medicine to you because you have an ailment, well, there's been rigorous testing around that to make sure it won't harm you. It won't harm your children if you become pregnant. It won't have short-term, medium-term, long-term effect upon your health. I know from doctors that our A&E departments and our doctors' practices are starting to become a bit overwhelmed with the fallout from the use of these synthetic drugs. And it seems for a lot of New Zealanders who use them, they seem to become addicted quite easily, and it has very severe consequences upon them and their attitudes and behaviours. Well, we have a responsibility to make sure New Zealanders are safe if they're going to consume something, just as we do with pharmaceutical medicines. We have an absolute obligation to make sure that young New Zealanders are not harmed and are protected from this. And as a Minister responsible, I'll be taking that responsibility extremely seriously.
Among all the other things you're going to be challenged with as well, but I know you're passionate about that, and we look forward to some more hard work from you. But we hope you cope. I'm sure you will. It's that energy thing. I'm sure you'll do well. Congratulations again on your appointments, and we'll watch it with progress.
Thanks, Wayne.
Cheers. And a great promotion there for our local MP, and well deserved. Thanks for watching and having us at your place. If you have any news or information you'd like to let us know about, you can call us on 0734 88984, or of course email us at news@tv-rotorua.co.nz. Thanks for watching. Homarie.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.